I'll sip on this thing a little bit. No intro music today, boys. It's a sad, sad, sad day. It's unbelievable, actually. And we'll wait for everybody to file in to kind of get into the meat of it, but this is just going to be potentially an hour-long coping session with what we saw happen yesterday on that field at Paul Brown Stadium, not Paycor. We're going to call it Paul Brown Stadium. And even before, listen, this Bengals team, y'all, this Bengals organization is the reason I get psoriasis on my eyelids. I don't usually get psoriasis on my eyelids unless I'm going through divorce or something. There's got to be something really off with the whole stratosphere around Cincinnati sports teams in general. We just watched the Reds get swept by the worst team in baseball and put out of playoff contention pretty much in baseball. Put out a wild card contention. Again, this episode today is going to be an hour-long therapy session, I would imagine, because it's not looking good in terms of anything involving Joe Burrow. It's looking really bad. Come here. Come here. You know I need you. It's looking really, really, really bleak. If you're a Cincinnati sports fan right now. There's got to be some gypsy out there. There's got to be someone that did something really, really... What's going on, Bruno? Appreciate you tuning in. There's got to be something that's really... Somebody did something in Cincinnati really, really evil, and we're all paying for it all these decades later. There's got to be some kind of gypsy, and it's not just with the Bengals. Like I said, we just watched the Reds get swept by the worst team in baseball to effectively knock us out of the wild card race in baseball. All of this has happened. The Reds, and then you got Burrow going down yesterday. And it's an injury that, and I don't know if I feel this way, but a lot of fans seem to. What's going on, Lay? And then somebody with a Middle Eastern Arabic name said hello. I can't quite pronounce that. Welcome, everybody tuning in. This is going to be my hour-long therapy session because I don't know if there's ever been a more painful day as a Cincinnati sports fan as there is today. I just don't know. And the reason I don't know is because there have been so many painful days. Like I said, and it's funny, I kind of tried to make a joke out of it and record my crash outs during these Bengals games, and I put them on Instagram, put them on Snapchat. People find them funny and all this stuff. But I woke up, I'm dead serious, y'all. I woke up and I got psoriasis. I got skin condition on my eyelids from the stress. I know I shouldn't let it affect me like that. I don't think I'm alone in thinking and feeling that the city of Cincinnati deserves to have good teams. I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. And if there's any area in my life that I had to choose to not be stoic about, it's football. And that's the case. But I mean, golly, man. Unless you got like a tiger trapped in your bedroom, like why are we getting psoriasis on our eyes? You know what I mean? But anyways, Butter Noodle says waffles or pancakes. Choose waffles. It depends. So we watch our sweet prince, Joseph Lee Burrow, get sacked. I believe there was one play earlier in the game where and I didn't watch film this morning. I didn't want to think about football for a second this morning. Because it's a dark, dark day to be a Bengals fan. But from watching the game, here's what I remember. The Jaguars, they were doing a lot of double mug. They were walking the linebackers up to the line of scrimmage. They were getting back there, just absolutely bullying Cincinnati's offensive line. And I've seen, look, I haven't watched the film, but I have been digesting a lot of Twitter, X, if you will. And there's a couple of different, everybody wants to be in a tribe. Everybody wants to have their own thought on the Joe Burrow injury, even though the schools of thought they subscribe to are created by someone else. And I've distilled this down into a couple of different thought camps. The first thought camp is this organization is failing a generational talent like Joe Burrow. They have failed to put the right pieces up front. Devin McCourty, who played corner for the New England Patriots and has a twin brother, went on Kay Adams' show this morning, Up and Adams, and said exactly that. He said, I hate how this organization has structured their team. They have not invested in the offensive line. They have heavily invested in few key players, which is where the majority of their investment is allocated. This is Devin McCourty saying this. And he stated that Joe Burrow's biggest problem is the fact that he is a Cincinnati Bengal. Shameful. Shameful, lazy take. Because if you look at the headlines from just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, any Cincinnati Bengals outfit you want to pick out, you go back 2 weeks ago, you would read that this is the best offensive line that Joe Burrow had in front of him in his entire 6 years in Cincinnati. So I don't really buy the notion that this organization has failed Joe Burrow again. They struggled to put an offensive line in front of him. This, that, and the third. What I did notice yesterday was that when the Jaguars wanted to blitz, when they wanted to stunt, this offensive line looked like a bunch of school children getting bullied. They're getting bullied so bad, I'm surprised they didn't run off crying to the teacher to tell on Eric Armstead. Miss Middleton, Eric's bullying me again. He's pushing me back into the quarterback. He's bullying me. He's too strong. Miss Middleton, can you do something about Eric, please? That's what they looked like yesterday, the Bengals offensive line. When Burrow was in, mind you, sorry to raise my voice. When Browning comes in, it's a completely different scheme on offense. It's a completely different script on offense. And there's, Ash Owen is in the chat saying it right now, and I don't say I disagree. I don't think I can disagree that a lot of people are saying that Joe holds the football too long. So, I'm not done going through all the different schools of thought. We're going to break down every school of thought before I wrap this episode. And again, this might sound like a therapy session. It is. But something looked completely different up front when Jake Browning was in the game. A lot of people are saying that they put him under center more. And I remember this very discussion when Burrow went down in 23 in Baltimore. I remember this exact discussion at the onset of the beginning at the beginning of the 2024 season. There were a bunch of folks. I think we talked about it on the podcast here, that Jake Browning was taking significantly more snaps under center than Joe Burrow, and it was benefiting him. He was getting hit less. And so there are people out there this morning that say Joe Burrow is at fault for what transpired yesterday. And not just that, but that Zach Taylor, this isn't out of my mouth. I'm addressing every single angle of this so that we can all get some closure and deduct a bit of meaning or some kind of conclusion to the situation, because it just doesn't make sense as a Cincinnati sports fan. When will the pain stop? Will it ever stop? And we're sitting there having this conversation when our Bengals sit at 2-0. Now, 2-0 against shit teams. 2-0 against probably two of the worst teams in the league, two of the worst offenses in the league. Yeah, I agree. That 4th and 3 call yesterday, or however long it was, we get Andre Yasovas one-on-one with Travis Hunter, a veteran against a rook. It was a beauty. That, you're exactly right in the chat there. That play won the game. So, the school of thought, I tend to gravitate towards the lines of thought that are least adopted by everybody else. Because as we all know, hive mind and groupthink can heavily influence the way we analyze things, no matter how mentally fortuitous we see ourselves to be. So naturally, I'm going to go against the grain and say that it is not an offensive line problem with Joe Burrow getting hurt. This injury is not all of a sudden this organization's failing him. I've felt that way so many times before. Do I question the way that the Cincinnati Bengals run things? Constantly. But am I willing to blame this injury and this unfortunate situation we find ourselves in as a franchise on the organization? No, I'm not going to blame them for this. That is the most popular route to go in terms of coping with the situation in front of us, at least from what I've seen on Twitter this morning. We didn't invest in the offensive line. This organization fails Joe Burrow yet again. Joe Burrow is going to be Andrew Luck Part 2. And I'll say this, and I had this thought before the show, and it about made me damn sick. But I had this thought, and I'd be remiss to not share it with y'all. I would not be a bit shocked if Joey B did not finish his career in Cincinnati. Literally, I'm getting sick to my stomach after hearing myself say that. I would not be surprised if at some point this incredible specimen of a quarterback said, I love Ohio. I'm from here, but this city's cursed. These sports teams are cursed. And then watch him go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl. I would be sick. I would be sick to my stomach forever. So, and I was yelling at the TV yesterday, like I said, crashing out like I do during these Bengals games, just watching. And this offensive line yesterday, while Joe was in, they did get bullied. They got bullied bad by the Jags, dude. They got bullied bad by the Jags, dude. Okay, it's not necessarily the Green Bay Packers, who we have in about 3 or 4 weeks in Lambeau. Okay, it's not that bad compared to the Green Bay fucking Packers, who we watched film on last week. Confirmed, they're really good. They create a lot of issues. And if you're getting bullied up front by the Jacksonville Jaguars, well, I really don't know what to tell you. But again, my mind goes to a different place. Because now, with Browning presumably at the helm, and I understand that the Bengals are making calls around the league and to free agents because they're going to have to fill that spot for that number 2 quarterback. I doubt Brett Rypien is going to be ready for an opportunity if for some God forbidden reason Jake Browning went down. So I would imagine that Cincinnati will hit the free agent market for a feasible QB2. I've seen names like Taylor Heineke, John Wolford. You guys remember him? Remember he started a few for the LA Rams years ago. Jamar Chase is the GOAT football player. The mantle was held by Jerry Rice. Jamar is better. I'll go off of that chat and tell you something I saw that shocked me during the game yesterday, and I can't remember what statistic specifically they were looking at, if not all of them, but the commentators in yesterday's game pointed out that after 4 seasons, Jamar Chase is ahead of Randy Moss in some kind of statistic or metric. Kind of blew my mind to think that, because Randy Moss is one of the greatest receivers of all time. You look at a player like Jerry Rice, the game is just different. Like I don't think. I mean, you've got your boomers that are always going to say Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time. You've got your Gen X or whatever generation after that that's going to say Randy Moss is the greatest receiver of all time. And then you're going to have people from our, generation, millennials, Gen Z, saying that, somebody else is the greatest of all time. And I think they all have their merit because the game changes and different athletes work in different chapters of the progression of the game as a whole. And I'll say this too, man. Throw out scheme. Throw out the schedule. Throw out the defense. You've still got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on this offense. Football's a team game, and especially in pro football, the quarterback position is the most instrumental aspect of it. I'm not saying that the season will just be unaffected by what happened yesterday. I'm not saying that. But for some reason, and the more I read reports about how long a grade 3 turf toe takes to recover from, and maybe that's a good time to get into that now. The more pessimistic I become about Joe returning this season at all. In fact, I think saying 3 months for Joe is a tease. I think it's a complete tease because, as we'll learn here in a minute, that's the minimum time frame to recover from surgery on a turf toe. Again, I saw a lot of memes, a lot of jokes about it yesterday, like side by side, and it's like one like happy guy, and then it's like one like burnt out, like blacked out, Mr. Incredible type of guy, and it said what I think turf toe is versus what it actually is. Jamar does high point the ball better. I agree with that. But 3 months is... Look, and the other thing too, man, is I gathered some historical precedent for guys in the NFL that have had grade 3 turf toe before, and what their recovery timeline was like. And that's really what made me a bit more pessimistic. What I will say before I get into those cases, we're at a point in time where health optimization is better than it's ever been in human history and sports. Knowledge around nutrition is better than it's ever been around sports. I don't know if this even remotely applies or has any correlation. But to see how fast Aaron Rodgers was able to come back from that Achilles tear 2 seasons ago. The fact that he was even in the conversation to be playing again, he didn't obviously end up playing again, but he ended up practicing again before the end of that season. I don't know if an Achilles recovery journey is anywhere close to a turf toe recovery injury. They might be completely different things, and what I might be saying could... Bacon soda. We got a sub. Thank you so much. That's the first time that thing is played during the podcast. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I hope that... Anyway. But if those two recovery journeys are even worldly similar, I'd expect Joe Burrow to call up Aaron Rodgers. And maybe the fact that this is another interesting variable, conflict, I guess. Aaron Rodgers is a starting quarterback within the same division. He might not want to talk to Joe Burrow. He might not want to share his secrets with Joey B. Because you might be able to come back. If I share, let's say the turf toe recovery journey, let's say Aaron Rodgers has some wisdom to impart about his Achilles recovery journey to Joe Burrow on his turf toe recovery injury. Let's say there's wisdom to be imparted there. Aaron Rodgers might say, look, man, wish the best for you. Praying for you, praying for a strong recovery. I'll do some ayahuasca in your stead. But I'm not sharing my recovery journey with you because you might come back and whip our ass late in the season. That might be a thing. But I'm sure Joe could find out like what doctors, what rehab specialists Aaron was using, all the things. But if you look at these timelines, man, I pulled together some case studies on guys that had grade 3 turf toe. You got Dan Orlovsky, you got Terrell Owens, and you got Patrick Mahomes. And then apparently Brock Purdy did it last week, but it doesn't seem as severe because folks are saying he's going to be back in a few weeks. Apparently turf toe is absurdly rare for a quarterback. That's what I'm hearing. Which further feeds my narrative that Cincinnati, as a sports town, is jinxed. We're cursed. There's some gypsy that has it out for all of us. And is gaining mass pleasure at our misfortune. Dan Orlovsky's recovery took 10 months. He got surgery. They took a conservative approach with him. And Dan Orlovsky, who had grade 3 turf toe, I'd be shocked if he was. I'm sure he's speaking on this today. I need to go on social media and get his take. But they took a conservative approach with him, and it basically took a year until Dan Orlovsky was back fully functional as a player. Dan Orlovsky was running his mouth on Twitter about the Bengals organization this morning, about how we were failing Joe Burrow, how he was going to become Andrew Luck, part 2. So maybe we don't want to hear what he... No, I'd like to hear what he has to say about the turf toe. But, again, I don't know if I buy that this is on the Bengals organization yet. Talk to me in 5 minutes. Maybe we'll come back to it in a couple minutes, and I'll feel different. We winning the Super Bowl this year, I still believe Burrow will be back, and he will be more cerebral when he returns. I pray to God you're right. I pray to God you are right. Dan Orlovsky had the same injury. It took him about a year to get back. Again, they took a conservative approach. They didn't push it with him. I don't know if we will take the same approach with Joe or not. Terrell Owens, he got turf toe back in 2007. They were not conservative with Terrell Owens. He had surgery, and they brought him back within 6 weeks. And the injury continued to bother him after that for the rest of his career. Safe to say we do not want that with Joe. But on the other side of that coin, man, on the other side of that coin, how many more years where we have a legitimate opportunity do we have to win this thing? How many more years do we really have where we have all these guys on this team? Taking the conservative approach might not be the best thing. Some people are going to say, go with the long-term approach. Let's be conservative. Let's take care of him. But I totally understand the other viewpoint of we don't know how much time we've got to do this. We saw the state of the organization before we lucked out and got this number one pick in 2020. How much time do we really have a year to spend on this quarterback's rehab? This once-in-a-lifetime quarterback. Do we really have a year to spend on it? And then you have Patrick Mahomes. He got it in 2021. And it seems like he got it late in the year. Played through it in a Super Bowl where his performance was extremely diminished. And Mahomes is obviously a quarterback that moves around a lot. He's very mobile. A lot of plays are made by him off schedule, off script. I don't know. I just sense something. Look, as a Cincinnati fan, as a Cincinnati sports fan, I've been at this for. When did I become conscious? I've been at this for. I'm 28. I started watching Cincinnati Bengals when I was about 6 or 7 years old. I've been at this about 22, 20, 21 years. On the macro, right? As a Cincinnati sports fan, on the macro, there's never really been any reason in the last 21 years to be positive about anything. If you look at the macro, the end result, which to me is championships, or goddamn, just a little bit of playoff success, other than making it to the Super Bowl, which we didn't win. We should have won it. It wasn't holding on Logan Wilson or PI or whatever the fuck it was down there. The Bengals should have won the Super Bowl in 2022, but we didn't. Okay, on the macro, in 21 years of being a Cincinnati sports fan, there's been nothing positive. So why would we expect anything in the future to be positive? Maybe that's exactly why we should expect it to be positive. I don't know anymore. But there's just something, maybe it's my own emotional maturity. Maybe because I've been working on myself a little bit, that this dark time as a Bengals fan is not affecting me internally as much. But just maybe, for some reason, I still have a little bit of optimism about this season. I have some optimism that we're going to find a way to get Joe back in time to make a playoff push. Or that somehow Jake Browning is going to be the next Nick Foles. There's just something, and I think it's beyond me. I think it's a spiritual intuition that I have. And it could just be bias. Could just be blind optimism. But there's something in me. There's something saying to me that wants to believe that there's some kind of historic storyline brewing here. Cooney, here's the thing, man. I think if I'm going to be as real as I can, right now I think Joe is out for the year. You look at these guys, and I just talked about how hopeful I am. That's like, that's maybe for clips. I don't know. I do feel that way to an extent, but we got to come back to earth and look at the cases here. Dan Orlovsky, about a year. Terrell Owens bothered him for longer than a year. Mahomes, he played through it, but it was one game. It was a Super Bowl. He played through a turf toe, and he was significantly worse. And then once he got the surgery in the offseason, it took him. I don't remember how long it took him. I don't think it was as long, but 3 months. 3 months is literally for a turf toe, for a grade 3 post-surgery turf toe. 3 months is like the most optimistic you can be. And even then, we're looking at how many games is 3 months? 4 times 3, probably 12 games. We'd probably be looking at, in the most optimistic fashion, a week 15 return. Turf toe, man. Fucking turf toe. It sounds so benign. It's like, oh, he's got calluses on his fucking toe or whatever. Like, god damn, man. And the fact that it's that fluky for it to happen to a quarterback is the most fucking Cincinnati sports thing I've ever heard. But I tell you what, man. I will tell you what. Jake Browning. I said that like Trump. Jake Browning. That motherfucker was slanging it around the yard a little bit yesterday. Threw 3 picks. Couple of them I wanted to off myself. They were so shitty. Dumbass was just flinging it up there. And then he comes into a post-game presser and says, yeah, even after a pick like that, you got to just pop in there and sling the next one. And I was like, that's fucking badass. That's fucking, that totally wiped any bad feelings I had about him when he said that shit. He was like, fuck it. It's just sling it around. I don't give a fuck what happened last play. 3 picks. They were ugly interceptions. Ugly interceptions. And guys just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go to the next one. He just keeps slinging it. So, I mean, shit, man. Rich Eisen was saying it on his show earlier today that he thinks Jake Browning's the best backup quarterback in the NFL. He stepped in and he played well in 2023. We were all just fucking hopeless after that Baltimore game. That video, that vision of Joe trying to throw it on the sideline and like wincing in pain. Everybody knows what clip I'm talking about. That motherfucker's etched in my brain forever because the hopelessness we all felt when that happened. And here we are again. It's just constant pain for the Cincinnati Bengals organization. You want to know why I'm most pissed? I'll tell you why I'm most pissed. Then once this motherfucking Madden roster update hits, I ain't going to be able to play functionally with my Bengals on these Madden streams anymore. Maybe they'll have Jake Browning in there slinging it with a big set of nuts. Who knows? But what I do know, dude, is that when Browning's in there, the offensive script is completely different. And I saw Bengals fans talking about this online profusely this morning as well. And this is another thought camp around this whole situation. If they ran the same script offensively for Burrow as they do with Browning, that Burrow wouldn't have gotten hurt in the first place. If you gave Burrow more snaps under center and dropped him back that way, he wouldn't be getting hurt. And so what I understand is that Burrow is the one that likes to operate out of shotgun against his own best interest. I thought I had a stain on my shirt. Against his own best interest, apparently Burrow is the one that vies for more reps out of shotgun. And of course, this is just what I'm hearing on X, by the way. Of course, like a good little boy, Zach Taylor gives little Joey what he wants. Oh, you want more shotgun? Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so one thing I saw on Twitter that really stuck with me was that Zach Taylor is to blame for this because he doesn't have the nuts to go tell Joe, hey, look, motherfucker, I know you want to run shotgun. We're going to go under center because it works better. And you're going to be safer. So the fun aspect of all this is that we can hypothesize on these different realities the whole day. The sad part is that we will never truly know unless I somehow become friends with Joe Burrow in the next 10, 20 years. Or somebody close to this Cincinnati Bengals team. Astro says, hot take, give the ball to Wentz. Vikings will be contenders. Listen, man, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy's out this week. Guy's got an ankle sprain. I thought that with McCarthy, Minnesota's a winnable game for Cincinnati with Jake Browning at the helm at quarterback. Bacon soda. Thank you so much. Appreciate the sub. This is now a game with Wentz at quarterback that I would almost argue would be disappointing if Cincinnati did not get the victory in Minneapolis. I don't know. I've just never really been able to take. And it's ironic that I'm talking about a Nick Foles type of season with Jake Browning, and the first game we go down and play is against the guy that got replaced during that Philadelphia Super Bowl season. I don't know. You can always draw conclusions in places where you want them drawn. You know, you can always connect dots that you want to see connected. I saw some dumbass shit the other day about the Packers. It was like, age 27 for a Packers quarterback is Brett Favre was 27 and they won a Super Bowl, and Aaron Rodgers was 27 and they won a Super Bowl, and Bart Starr was 27 and they won a Super Bowl. So does that mean with Jordan Love turning 27 this year that the Packers could win a Super Bowl? Shut the fuck up. Goddamn idiots. Everybody's propping up the fucking Packers this year for whatever reason. I get it, right? Their defense is gross. But you know, Jordan Love, he's playing fine. But I think any quarterback with those receivers are gross. Okay, fucking Jaden Reed, he's fast as shit, and then they got that guy Matthew Golden. But like, do you guys maybe think that they're propping up Jordan Love because he's a mixed race? I'm just wild. But that shit pisses me off, man. People try to connect these stupid-ass dots that have no reflection probabilistically on how things are going to go in the future. Oh, Jordan Love's 27. Okay. That must mean they're going to win it all. Shut the fuck up. Fucking idiots. But that whole rant just started because I was trying to do that. Fuck. God, I'm just in a place right now, man, where I'm trying to. I mean, this podcast is a great coping mechanism because it's so early in the season and it's so Cincinnati to be completely spiritually and emotionally depleted after week 2. There's fucking. Oh, come here. If you're gonna, my dog fucking walks up to me, and then he sits there, acting like he's gonna do something. But for some reason, he's smart. He knows the camera's on. He won't come on here. If my dog came on screen, you guys know how many more clicks I'd get. You guys know how many more viewers I'd get. My cute ass dog jumped in my lap. But he's smart. He knows the camera's on, and he won't do it. Japanese flags on the back of the helmets. Yeah, I'm surprised they can see the field, you know. So I really don't know what to make of this entire situation. There's reason to be hopeful, if you look at it a certain way. There's reasons to be completely downtrodden if you look at it another way. I'm probably gonna weep when we hop on this goddamn Madden stream and that roster update hits and I have to play as Jake Browning. But maybe the kid balls, dude. I mean, he really did play ball yesterday. He really, when it mattered. Look, the Jaguars are shit. And I know that because I watched film on them last week. We did an episode about them last week previewing this very matchup. They're shit. But this team was in a tough spot against a shit team in Jacksonville yesterday, and they figured it out. They found a way to dig themselves out. I will say that the Jags, they made mistakes down the line that really cost them that I don't think a good team is going to make. So, we're probably fucked. Hope I'm wrong. Season's probably fucked, and we just wrapped up week 2. God, dude, if I was able to go forward in time and see and hear myself say that, see this episode, I would cry. But it's Hot Wing says it's just a toe. Chill. Dude, I needed that, Hot Wing. I appreciate it, bro. I need that sometimes. And that's the thing, too, right? It's the thing that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things about this injury that don't make sense to me. The first thing is how it happened. Because I saw Eric Armstead around his ankles or whatever. He wasn't doing any dirty shit like gator rolling or nothing like crazy like that. But like the fact that it was his big toe, like how, again, I wish I had like a wire connection or something so I could pull like video up and watch it with y'all. But, you know, we'll get there at some point. But, like, the how of this injury, I don't get it. Like, when did it happen in the play? Did it happen before contact? Did it happen on contact? Did it happen after he was already down? Like, I've watched the clip numerous times. I don't understand how that big toe gets isolated like that, and how you tear ligaments in a toe on a play like that. I don't understand the how. Again, this morning is a dark, dark day for Bengals fans. We're all just looking for closure. We're looking for an explanation. We're looking for people to blame, a reason why, a scapegoat. Because, again, and as a Cincinnati fan, we are no stranger to this, trying to find answers on a pain-filled morning. The other thing I'm trying to understand is this is in his left big toe, right? Obviously, as a right-handed ball thrower, you would need that right big toe to push off on throws and deliver the ball where it needs to go. His right big toe is completely fine, and he should be able to push off of it to make throws. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that, oh, this cat, he needs to be able to play. But, like, can he? You know, like, is there any shot? You know, Mahomes played through it, but it was like one game. And again, like, apparently he was dog shit in that Super Bowl. I guess the left toe, it limits your mobility. Like, that's what, like, and the fact that Hot Wing popped in the chat and said that it's a left toe, it's just a toe chill. Like, that's a good point. Like, we're talking about a season being over because of a big toe. I don't know if I've ever seen a team this high profile, a player this high profile, be derailed by a body part that small. If we're going to really get into semantics. Which makes me think, like, we're all looking for meaning. Again, we're in pain. If you held a gun to my head or you told me you make, 50 racks if you're right about the outcome of the season, I'd probably tell you that we're not going to see Joe again. But God damn it feels good to have a little bit of hope. And that's what these Cincinnati teams, again, I swear, somebody's cursed our city. Somebody's had it out for us. Somebody did something really evil, and now we're all paying for it. That's the thing about these Cincinnati sports stories, right? There's always a glimmer of hope. Just a little glimmer. Whether it's in a game, whether it's a story like this, there's always a little glimmer, right? And then at the last second, all your hope is just dashed and crushed into a million little pieces. We saw it game in, game out last year. Remember that Chargers game last year where we were down like 24-7. Then we pull back to even and find a way to blow it. Just to give you a little glimmer of hope. Then smash it all in front of you. So that's kind of what this injury is like. We have a little glimmer of hope. Oh, 3 months. Okay, week 15, week 16. Jake Browning will go 500, and then Joe Burrow will still be in playoff contention when Joe comes back. Joe will come back in form, and then we'll have a chance to make a run and do it. Right? There's that little hope. And sometimes as a fan, and I'm not wishing harm on anybody, but sometimes as a Cincinnati fan, sometimes as a fan in general, and this might be a cue for me to wrap things up, sometimes you would almost just rather him blow his fucking shit out. Because then we have closure. Then we know there's no chance of him coming back. Again, I'm not wishing harm on anybody. I'm not saying I wish this, that, or the other would have happened. But from a fan perspective, when you're talking about hope, it's just so Cincinnati that it's a little toe. And the idea that he might come back. He might come back, and then our hope is just stomped on into a billion little pieces. Yeah, I'm really freaking jarred up about this injury. Just in so many ways. Like if you're watching your favorite team and you got to pick between two outcomes. One outcome is that they're in the game and then hope is dashed at the last second and you lose a heartbreaking one. Or you could just choose to just get your ass kicked and have that closure of like, we suck. Like, which one would you choose? You know, I think people's answers would probably be conflicted on that, but it's a valid case, valid question. You know, which one would you choose? Would you rather get your ass kicked and have the closure that you suck? Or would you rather hang in the whole game, inspire hope in everybody, and then just to lose at the last second and have the same result? That's kind of Cincinnati sports for you, at least this phase of Cincinnati sports. You know, the thing about Burrow, the thing about Chase, the thing about these guys that they have been able to do for the city is inspire hope again. And it just hasn't materialized yet. We might be cursed. It might never materialize. But maybe I'm wrong. Before, those guys were just hopeless all the time. You know, we had that one season in 2015 where Andy Dalton was humming, Mohamed Sanu, A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert. They started out, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 or something. Other than that, hopeless. So at least these guys have brought hope back. But God damn it, I think having hope sometimes is just as painful, if not more painful, when it ends in a loss or it ends bad than being hopeless at all and having no expectations from the start. So I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on this as we go forward. Feels good to kind of get it all out, but it's also kind of hard to hear myself say all these things for the first time because that just kind of confirms to me that it's real. But that's a good thing. You know, you gotta swallow a hard truth instead of living in a blissful world of delusion. You got to swallow a hard truth. This injury to Joe, it's not personal. You know, nobody, unless some gypsy put a curse on this goddamn sports town, which every day that goes by, I'm a bit more convinced. Unless some gypsy put a curse on Cincinnati sports, it's not personal. You know, it's just an injury. I don't think it's the organization's fault. You know, I think they tried to put pieces on the offensive line there. I think if I had to blame anything for this injury, it's the scheme. It's the offensive script. Going out of shotgun too much. You know, got to go under center. But it's too late now. Hopefully not. Again, hope. We got all this hope. And Joe Burrow very well could be out for the year. But for now, that's not confirmed. For now, he very well has a chance to come back. So we will see how his rehab goes. I'd guess that that's probably going to be the main storyline of our show for months to come. So if you guys are interested in hearing updates about Joe Burrow, my emotional state and the subsequent state of the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. This is the number one up-and-coming football show on the planet. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of us, regardless of the somber attitude that we've presented today. It's for good reason. This has been a therapy session for me. Appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. If you want to replay this episode, if you want to replay any episode, go to the channel. Or you can get this podcast on any audio platform as well if you like to knock out your podcast while you're driving in the car and you don't feel safe watching the video version while you drive. You might want to just, watch or listen to it while you do laundry too. I don't know. Good program today, I believe. Even though I'm sad. It's like the football gods are sitting down. It's like the football gods are the Joker in The Dark Knight. When Harvey Dent's in that hospital bed. And the football gods sitting down next to your bed like the Joker did to Harvey Dent. And he just kind of goes, hi. I hope I did that right. I think I did. He's just like he just like very clearly like fucked him over, and he was like, hi. That's how I feel. Football gods did that to us today, dude. You just wake up with slap in your face of reality. God. When's the pain gonna stop, dude? When is the pain going to stop for Cincinnati sports fans? And let me put this into context, and I'll probably leave y'all with this. Then we're going to go to the Madden stream. So hang around if you want to watch that. But if you think about it, 99%, I would guess. There's definitely a statistic for this. But 99% of everybody's sports seasons, every passionate sports fan, 99, if not close to 100% of all sports seasons for a fan will end in heartbreak. The vast majority of everybody's vast majority as a sports fan ends in heartbreak. So it makes those championship moments, if you think about that, you think about the seasons that don't end in heartbreak, which are zero for Cincinnati fans, if you look at the last 20 years, makes it that much more special. We'd have to be under some kind of curse for us to not see a Bengals championship or a Reds championship before we turn 100 years old and croak. So, if that's what gets me by, man, I'm going to look at it that way. And listen, Jake Brown's a fucking baller. We might have part two. We might have Nick Foles part 2 going on here. I even had a thought earlier of like, dude, what if Jake Brown balls so hard that, there's like a controversy, or like, we have to trade him somewhere else because he's so clearly, a starter. I think that's really optimistic, but all right. Shout out Horse Racing. I think I know his name, but I'm not going to dox him. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. Appreciate you. Love you. If you're watching, you're not subbed, do it now. Do it. All right. I guess I'll play music. I didn't open the show with music because I was so down. You know what? I'm going to keep the copyright tag off this episode and not play it. But I'll head out now. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all.